Tackle football for kids still okay, and a new sleep study has us opening our eyes to top medical stories Dr. Joe Giovinco has for us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Joe. So the headline from this new sleep study is that interrupted sleep is actually worse than not getting enough sleep, right?
Good morning. Yes, I mean, in this particular study, that's what they found. And what they did was, it almost sounded cruel. They took these volunteers, and some of them had interrupted sleep, less than 5 hours total. They woke them up for as much as an hour at a time, kind of like what would happen if you had a new baby or perhaps you were on call. And so what they found is that those individuals had an effect on their positive mood. So they believe that it's interfering with slow wave sleep. They looked at, they hooked them all up, checked their sleep, their waves in their brains during their sleep, and they thought that that might be having an effect. It seemed to be worse when then compared to just that short duration sleep, and certainly worse than the people who were able to sleep as long as they wished.
Yeah, a lot of grumpy people. It's estimated 10% of the U.S. population have insomnia. What can we do to improve our sleep?
Yeah, sleeping longer you would think would help, but another study is saying it might not. When they looked at middle-aged women over time, they found that those who added on a couple of extra hours, slept about 9 hours, actually increased their risk of diabetes. And it also occurred in those women who didn't sleep enough. It seemed like the optimal time was 7 to 8 hours, but when they looked at those short duration sleepers who then tacked on that extra 2 hours, it didn't seem to have that benefit. So I think that, we really need to look at good sleep hygiene, making sure we're sleeping in an environment that's conducive to sleep. You want it to be extremely dark and cool and absolutely no light in that room if possible. We need to shut down our TVs and our laptops and our tablets an hour or so before we go to bed. All that sleep hygiene, but one more thing I really have to remember is the sleep apnea. Lots of folks out there with sleep apnea. If you've ever been one of those people or have a partner that you've had to elbow, you may be one of those people. So you really do need to talk to your doc about that.
Yeah, definitely. I know pediatricians from all over the country met in Washington, D.C. last week, and one of the things that some of them focused on was the safety of tackle football for kids. A lot of talk because of concussions, but really they looked at to see if tackle football, instead of flag football, maybe everybody should be going to flag football. But this is something that they looked closely at.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right, and they did make that suggestion that maybe the players and the coaches, and they need to look at starting an alternative league that does not involve tackling. Tackling really accounts for about 40% of injuries overall, but the vast majority of concussions. And the concussions are what we're most concerned about, although there are a small percentage of the injuries. Most of them are going to be your ankles and your knees and those other body parts, fractures and sprains and strains. But when those concussions occur, we worry about that long-term effect. So what they are saying is, in this report, they're saying, hey, look, if you're going to tackle, then we need to look at, should we start tackling at a later age? There's conflicting information. If we start later, they're afraid that, they're faster, they're going to hit harder. They should start when they're young, so there's that out there. They also talk about hitting with your head. They say that should be a zero tolerance. Officials, coaches, zero tolerance, especially when it's occurring in the younger players, to maybe perhaps expel them from the game. I mean, it should be that severe of a penalty. They also talked about having more trainers on the sidelines, helping to really make sure that these kids are, being, evaluated appropriately. And Exactly. So, my son played football, played in college, so I know I went through the surgeries with him. But you have to remember that, it is a rough sport. A lot of us love it, but if they do make some of these changes and they make them stick, we know that it can have a positive effect. They kept remembering back in 1976 spearing. I don't know if spearing was when you put your head down and then you go straight into that player. Well, that caused a lot. You can imagine spinal cord injuries, right?
Yeah, you have to see if
that became illegal.
Right, that was something. You have to really see if the benefits outweigh the risks of playing. So, thank you so much, Dr. Joe. Appreciate it.